We're back working on this excavator. Now, if you didn't watch the previous video, I bought this excavator real cheap. We started fixing it up to discover it has done a head gasket. Now, I was lucky enough to track down a company that still does parts for this motor. So I'm hoping I can just unbolt this seat plate here. This whole thing will flip forward and we have access straight to the head. I don't know what this wiring is. It looks very much like someone's just slapped this all. Oh, cigarette lighter. And this is probably the on and off switch for it. I won't cut this wiring out because this part here actually looks factory. They've just tapped into it and done a very poor job of it. So that's an earth there. I'm just gonna... And then I think we'll just cut this main power wire here until we work out what exactly that's for. If you watched the previous video, you would have seen it had this thermo fan thing on the side, and it was all, they used speaker wire to hook it up. So I don't know if that switch, this switch here, was an on and off for the fan, or if this is on and off for that cigarette lighter. I don't know. But this should pivot forward to some degree. With moving that pilot control, that's given us heaps of room. It's even got hooks on the head there to help me pull it out. The only sort of concerning thing I have is the bolts on that exhaust manifold look awfully rusty. And 9 times out of 10, that'll break in there. I really think it's going to be wishful thinking getting these bolts out. I'm really hoping this long bolt down here doesn't break, because if it breaks halfway, we're still not going to be able to get the manifold off, because of the muffler is only like a hand width away from the side of this housing here. And that's just not ideal, so fingers crossed they come out. Well, that's surprising. Oh no, I think it just broke. Did it break? Well, that's one. That's two. That's three. We might actually get this off without any broken bolts. That is actually a miracle. That's the fourth one. I need an award or something for that. 30-something years old and I didn't break an exhaust bolt. Now we're just going to undo. I've pretty much got all the bolts out bar one, and it's a stud. So I've got my stud remover here. Oh, I'm looking, there's enough room. Actually, it might even... I've just dropped it. That is not good. Might have to double nut that one. Alright. That's awesome. Look at that. So now, with a bit of a tap, alright, the alternator's in the way. Alright, I quickly removed that alternator, so this should... Oh, beautiful. Now we've just got to remove our injector lines, and we're pretty much ready to pull the head off. How's that? It's direct injection. I did not know. I thought this was indirect. This is a nice little motor. It's a sleeved block by the look of it. So I take that back. Normally when you overheat a indirect injection motor, normally because all the heat's in the head, because the combustion's in the head, it cracks the head. But this being direct injection, all the heat is in the piston, and generally they handle it. So I think we'll just get a rag and we'll give it a good wipe over and just see what these bores look like. Yanmar make good stuff. I much prefer Yanmar than Kubota. So I went ahead and cleaned up the deck of this block. It all come up pretty good. I was a little bit concerned it was going to be warped and we'd have to get it decked, but it's all good. I did check it with a straight edge. Now, if you can see in the cylinder liner there, we have got our vertical marks. And at first glance, when I pulled the head off, I was like, oh, it's picked up on the block. And what I mean by when it picks up on the block, the piston expands so much from heat, it picks up on the bores, and it literally it destroys everything. The pistons would be knackered. You'd have to do pretty much a full rebuild on the bottom end. But they're actually watermarks. That's how long this has been, the head gasket's been crooked. So I'd say I'd say the previous owner or someone before him, it's done a head gasket and they've just literally, where it stopped is where they've left it. And pretty much I bought this out of a field, so I would say that's what's happened, and that's why we've got all these watermarks. Now, number 3 is probably the worst, and by worst I mean staining wise. We haven't got any pitting, which is good. We have got some discoloration in there, but that should clean up with use of the machine. Now, I did go ahead and send the head off to get skimmed, because I did check that one with a straight edge and it was warped. So we're getting that skimmed. I had to pull all the valves out, pull everything out, because the valves are so close to the top of the head. He'd want them pulled out anyway, so I just pulled them out, and that should be back in a couple of days. So we got the head back here from the machine shop. We have no cracks, which is great news. However, you can see here, where's this torch? We do have a little pitting here on number 3, and if you remember, number 3 was our worst cylinder for the staining. So I'd say the head gasket was more damaged in number 3 cylinder, and you can see there on our valve seat we have got some pitting. We still do have some shininess the whole way around, but I think I'm going to give this valve a good lapping and just make sure that seats properly before we go putting the head back. Because if I have to, I think we have got a valve seat cutter here. I think we'll just knock a new seat in if this doesn't clean up. All the other, that is exhaust valve. So all the other inlets and exhaust valves are fine. Just on this one on number 3, it's just a little bit, I'm not quite happy with it. So we'll see if that cleans up with a good lapping. Problem is my lapping tool is too big. couple more of that should clean up, I think. Hard to tell, but that one cleaned up all right. So we're right to stick this all back together now.
There is Dale, so move this hand.
We got the head all torqued down, valve lashes set, we got the injectors in, so now we can go ahead and bolt everything back together. All right, we cracked that bleeder and we bled it up. You got it at full throttle?
Yeah. Well, you're not really. Oh, I suppose you're heating the toaster.
No seat, no nothing on it to muffle
and
it.
it's a direct injection, so
I had a bit of an airlock in the fuel system there. I don't know how that got in there because I had none of this off. But anyway, it runs good. We're not blowing coolant out of the radiator now, which is good. So we can pretty much get everything buttoned up. that was about 3 hours of pressure washing. You can actually see the hydraulic pump now. It actually came up pretty clean. Not that the engine bay was that dirty, but just have years of grease and stuff dripping down everywhere here. It looks a whole lot better now. Alright, now we can spin it around, put the counterweight back on. I've got a couple of covers underneath and on the other side that we've got to screw all back on. And then I just want to do the oil in the final drives. We've done the engine oil. I've just got to top up the hydraulic oil, but that looks pretty good. And then we need to give it a good greasing because it hasn't had one in many years, judging by how dry. I pulled one of those lower pins out and it was bone dry, so it's definitely needing a nice greasing.
Just go up a touch. Yep, now come forward. Yep. You should almost be able to sit there. Yep, just watch it as it roll off. Is that it? Okay. I think it's good for
That really surprised me. Every point took grease. In the knuckle here, like that looked like it hadn't been greased in a long time. I had to pump a fair bit in to get that out. The amount of water that came out with that as well, even though we just pressure washed it, but at least she's a lot tighter now that it's all greased up. These are actually slightly rounded, so it's definitely been changed before, which is good to see. She's got oil in there, which is good. Probably a little bit over full for my liking, but I'd rather too much than not enough. You know it's gear oil in there too, because it stinks. Now I've just put gear oil in this. This isn't actually jack oil. It's just easier because it's got this nice nozzle on the end. That seems to have a big hole in it. Nice. I think I've got one more of these ends, hopefully. This oil's not looking too good. If you can see there, that's brown because the oil's leaked out. That's just condensation rust, why it's brown like that. What we'll have to probably do is fill this up with gear oil, use the machine for a bit, and then just change it out again, because the colour of it's going to change pretty quickly. Actually not as bad as I thought. So we just filled it about halfway then, I reckon, and just drain it out now. Just to try and flush it a little bit, but see, that's already cleared right up. I thought that was going to be worse, to be honest. But I think we'll still do the same. What we said is, I'll fill this up, we'll use the machine, put a couple of hours on it, and then just make sure, change this oil out, make sure it's clearing right up. One of the last things I want to do is just replace the seals in this cylinder. And then I've got the dasher part, and I'm just getting a couple new meters. The actual gauges, the temperature gauge and the fuel gauge still work, just the needles were broken. And if you look, I know a few people asked how many hours it has. Look at that. 2,436 hours. I don't think it works though, so you can't go off those hours because the machine's definitely got more than that. But I giggled a little bit when we pulled that plate off and wiped the dust off it. Only 2,000 hours, but geez, I wasn't expecting that. We've still got plenty of bushing. Even the seal, the grease sealing there's nice and in real good nick. The pin actually has all the wear in it. I think this machine is overall pretty good. It's just never been greased. I mean, it is an ex-farmer machine, so do they grease their stuff? From my experience, definitely not. But I'm a bit happy about that. I could almost just machine up a new pin, and that's not that this one's I know that one at the bottom there's sloppy. Like you can see, that for sure would be the pin. You can see all that. I might have to look into that one, just quickly whack up a new pin. Didn't want it to come to this, but the end on this chisel's pretty. I think we got it. Beautiful. I've had it before, when you use these chisels, you just end up messing up that gland real bad. I've done a few of these now. I should really get the proper tool instead of using the big Stilsons on here, because it really, oh, you can see someone's actually previously done it themselves. That's all right. I think we'll get rid of the forklift now and put the milk crates back under so I don't get oil all over me forklift. tricky one. This thread here is a bit messed up. This cylinder's not long been pulled apart. You can tell by some fresh marks on it. Because some of the seals in the top there have been replaced. I only put a wiper seal in it, a pressure seal and a backup seal. Because the others look fairly good. But this here is... someone's done a good job of this. see how worn that pin is. It's almost flat there. I wonder if we can just rotate. Oh, look at that, it's loose. Sweet. I might just rotate that pin to where it's nice and round again. That way we get a second go at this pin. And then hopefully in here is not too bad. I've got some quick coupler ends I've got to put on here. Yeah, that's not too good. I mean, if we turn the pin, it's going to make a little bit of difference, but there's a bit of wear in this coupler here. It's not just at the bottom or the top, it's everywhere. Like if I'm to fill it up with weld, I think we're just going to have to fill these up with weld and die grind them back out. I could weld all this up and set it up in the milling machine, but that's a big job doing that. And if I can get most of that slop out of it, there's actually surprisingly next to no slop in the bottom of this stick here. Alright, we got that all welded up. Now we can just try and grind it back to suit that pin. For anyone wondering, that's water. We use that for water, not petrol. So if it was petrol, I would have moved it. A lot tighter now. It's still a little bit smoky because it's still burning off all the stuff on the exhaust. You can see all that smoke there and stuff. Well, she's finally all back together. I think this is going to be a pretty good old digger. The motor runs nice and sweet now. It still digs fine. We have got a little bit of slop in the boom down here, but for the age of the machine, I reckon that is the right amount of slop for it. Now, like I said earlier, the gauge, the hour meter does say only 2,000 hours, but obviously that is way wrong. That could have stopped working years ago. This may have 10,000 or more hours on it, I don't know. But this was a massive gamble buying this. This was my first sort of excavator I have ever bought, and for what I have planned for this is going to be sitting out in the open. It will not be undercover, and I didn't want to go fork out big money for something that's just going to be sitting outside. So I think this is going to be the perfect candidate for the job, because it's never been inside. That bucket we did take all the slop out of that bucket here now, so it's actually usable. When I first got, like, I'm leaning on that now, and it's all still nice and relatively tight through here. But I'm happy we got that fixed. I just chucked this bucket on because the other buckets that came with it, I'm gonna turn these into gummy buckets. And what I mean by gummy buckets is you pretty much cut the teeth off and put a nice straight cutting edge through there. I've just got to put the roll bar on when it moves out of the garage here, and she's pretty much ready to go. So let's go fix something else.